I know that Check Your Thread listeners love to hear how sewing is being used to positively impact the lives of others. So I know you're going to love today's episode. For years, Mel Keane has been improving the lives of members of her community who are struggling through various types of volunteering. This has included setting up sewing workshops to help people clothe themselves and their families, as well as to build skills and confidence. The workshops that Mel facilitated at a refugee centre helped forge a sense of community for people who found themselves isolated. And more recently, the sewing classes that she runs help the participants find a sense of calm and stillness in otherwise very stressful lives. So please stick around a few minutes to hear about these endeavours and about some fun things that you can do to support them. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 16 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. And I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Hi, awesome listener, how are you doing? What's been happening with you? Have there been any sustainability wins or fails lately? I've definitely had some fails, largely around food waste, finding stuff that's gone mouldy in our fridge and the cupboard, and not using up produce from our veg box before it went on the turn. As for sustainability wins, in our house we're about to enter birthday season. My kids both have their birthdays in early October, so I'm trying to get our ducks in a row and plan for more sustainable, plastic-free and waste-free celebrations. That's going to include plastic-free party bags, of course, although my daughter is ageing out of party bags, to be honest, not that she seems willing to give those up yet. And we're also getting them presents that are basically either plastic-free or second-hand, including books and second-hand computer games. Plus, I'm hoping I'll have the time and energy to make them both garments using scraps, but I'm running out of time, so we'll see. Something I've really come to realise is that sustainability successes usually come from planning and foresight and not getting caught out in some way, you know. For example, like with meal planning, so you're only buying ingredients that you need and are actually going to use. And thinking about celebrations and events way before they're actually upon you, so you don't need to go out and panic buy stuff. So that's what I've been trying to do. So no new patrons to thank this week. So instead, I'd like to remind you that Check Your Thread has a free weekly newsletter. Every week I share just two things. I briefly tell you about that week's episode, usually including a useful summary or an additional interesting detail. And I share about one other thing that I think that, as a listener of Check Your Thread, you're going to find interesting. This month we're celebrating Scrap Busting September, so each of those second things have been related to sewing with scraps in some way. So far I've shared a great free scrap-related sewing resource, and I've offered up one of my favourite scrappy fashion designers as a source of sewing inspo. To make sure you're not missing out, just head to the website checkyourthread.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage and pop your email address in. Okay, so onwards to today's episode. If you liked the episode I made about the Kundakala social enterprise back in episode 93, then you'll love this one also. And if you haven't heard that one, why not queue up episode 93 to listen to after this one? Both will make you feel happier about the world, I promise. So Mel Keane is such a gentle and unassuming soul, but the direct impact she's having on people's lives is significant and so inspiring. But of course, not everyone is in the position to volunteer for hours each week at organisations such as the Lighthouse, where Mel volunteers. However, there are ways that you can help Mel do what she does for the people that she helps. Towards the end of this episode, Mel outlines those ways, and they include participating in a fun sewing challenge, joining her for a virtual sewing session that she'll be hosting this Wednesday, and she's always open to fabric and haberdashery donations if you're in the UK. The details are in the episode and in the show notes for this episode, which is number 152. So until next week, please take care of yourself and your loved ones and those in the wider global community. And if you're in the US, for the love of God, please make sure you've registered to vote. And of course, enjoy. So, hi Mel, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Can we please start? Can you tell us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
Morning, Zoe. My name is Mel Keane, and I live in Woking, Surrey, which is about 20 miles south of London. And what fills my day? Well, it's a big variety of things, actually. We always start the day off with a walk for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Lovely.
So that starts my day. And then after that, it's a huge variety of things, depending on which day of the week it is. So it can vary from volunteering at the lighthouse on the community lunch, volunteering on the sewing project at the lighthouse. Sometimes I also teach the Foodwise class there. My husband has got his own business from home, catering business, which I help with. We've both got elderly parents who need different things at different times. I try and fit in my own sewing. And also, I've got 2 boys who are in their early 20s and their girlfriends.
They're both living with you?
They're both living with us, but they go away for a few days, come back. And then we have their friends. Can I have my friends over? Or they suddenly just all turn up. So it's busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, life's good.
Good. Awesome. So I'm so excited to hear about some of the amazing sewing related work that you've been doing in recent years. So I know that you've been doing amazing work that is using sewing as a medium to help people and also to create community, which is things that we love talking about on Check Your Thread, as you know. So I think that it's probably going to make sense to start talking about the project that you were doing previously up until Christmas, because correct me if I'm wrong, what you're doing now is kind of informed to a certain extent from the previous project.
It is, yeah.
So tell me about the Guildford Refugees project, please, and how did it start? Who did it serve? How did it evolve? Tell me everything.
Well, it was a bit of a whirlwind thing, really. We were volunteering at a holiday camp there, and the people that were living there was 150 people living there.
Right. Where was this? This was in Guildford?
Just outside Guildford. It was a converted hotel, but to call it a hotel is a bit grand because it was just a holding centre. It was quite miserable and drab.
Right. From refugees coming from where?
From all over the world. From Pakistan, from Ukraine, from South America, all different nationalities, all with different needs, but they were all families, so it was mainly women and children, and the only men that were allowed there were husbands. So they'd all fled from terrible situations, often really quickly, but I never used to inquire about what happened, but you just knew that they'd come here to have a better life, and they were just being held in this refugee centre, and nothing had happened for a year, and they had no money, and they weren't allowed to work, and they were given £8 a week pocket money to spend on, I don't know, biscuits or clothes or...
£8 a week, that's nothing.
No, yeah, it's terrible. The only people that were happy there were the children, because they went out to school, and they were so excited to learn and to learn English. And when they came home from school, about 3:15, then the place just livened up. And yeah, so it was a pretty drab existence. And after a year, their mental health had started to suffer, getting depressed.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And bored, absolutely bored.
Yeah, and just feeling like you're stuck, like no progression in any way.
Yeah, but they were still happier here than where they'd come from. And so the local community got together and created lots of different groups, a cycling group, a walking group, book group, lots of English lessons, of course. And then they asked if I knew anyone who could sew.
Well, funnily enough.
I can. And they said, would you come along and start a class? And so I just said yes. So I went along. Amazing. I didn't know what to expect. And they had no equipment, nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you have machines? How did it begin? Just rock on up with your machine going, here we go.
I did actually the first week, took a machine with me. And then when I realised what was happening and how many women were desperate to join in.
How many did you have?
Well, at the beginning, probably 10 or 12. But we had to cap it at 15, although we never said no. The most we had in the group was 20. It started off quite small, but then, of course, when word got out. So I was donated a couple of machines, which weren't adequate enough, actually. I just spent my time fixing them. So I ran a couple of coffee mornings and made some things to sell at a Christmas fair, raised some money, bought 3 brand new machines, and along with another couple that were donated, we started like that.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So it just kind of started bit by bit.
Yeah, but we didn't have any fabric, so locally I put a shout out and I got lots of bits of fabric and things. But then after a few months, I just put a shout out on Instagram, and the Fold line were brilliant. They put something out on their website, and then the fabric just started coming in, and it was great.
So did the people that were attending, did they have any sewing skills to start with, or was it like a mix?
Most of them could sew. Some of them were even tailors in their own countries. The one thing they couldn't do was speak English. So most of them could sew, and so they just wanted the fabric, they wanted machine time, and the class started at 1:30, but at 1:00 they'd be there in the outside room, sort of looking to see what I was bringing in and offering to help me, and they would help set up the machines. And then as soon as the machines were set up, I always took 2 or 3 large bags of fabric, and I'm talking about those blue IKEA bagfuls of fabric. And we had to have a system, actually, because they would have a piece of fabric and then they'd be off making something.
Did they use patterns?
No, they knew what they wanted to make. They would whiz something up, hold it up against them, nip behind a screen, try it on, and then there'd be a couple of people helping them pin it or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would whip up an outfit, sort of skirt or a shift dress, in about an hour and a half. I mean, I did have measuring tapes and things like that, but they would do this thing where you do your nose to your hand. And I learnt a lot from them, actually, Zoe, because I don't know about you, but I spend ages working out my size.
Yeah. You're like paralysed by indecision.
Yeah, and then choosing the fabric, whereas they only had what I took along. And they did look at patterns. They'd say, have you got a skirt, trouser? And I'd show them a picture, and that was all they needed.
Wow.
Yeah. There were some people who were complete beginners, and I would teach them how to sew in a straight line, and then once they could sew in a straight line, they were off. And we started off with Google Translate. They'd put a phone in front of my face and speak. And then after a few weeks, I thought, well, this is ridiculous. It's taking up all my time. So then I started to teach them English and labelled everything, measuring tape, thread, things like that. So I like to think that I helped them with English. And the community side of it there was the fact that in the refugee centre, all the different nationalities, they didn't mix at all, because I didn't allow children, drinks or food in the room because it was too chaotic.
Yeah. Sounds like you had a lot of people already. There's much more space.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say, well, can't you look after the children this week, and then next week you come to sewing? But they couldn't do that because they just didn't mix. But then gradually, after a few months, they were starting to mix in the sewing group, helping each other, sharing machines. So I hope that helped in the general sense of the centre, the atmosphere there. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So how long were you doing this for?
For about 15, 16 months, but I didn't do it on my own, Zoe. I put a shout out on Instagram, and it's amazing who comes and offers to help, but I ended up with 3 brilliant helpers, Margaret, Rebecca and Kathy. You know who you are. And they were absolutely invaluable. I couldn't have done it without them. It was fun, actually. It was a challenge. It took up a lot of my time sort of processing all the fabrics which came in, and people were really generous, and beautiful fabrics from lovely companies, or some just remnants and things like that. But I would always wash and press them and put them into nice little parcels, so that they had that experience that we have when we go into a fabric shop, that we get nice cut edges. And of course I used to put it on my Stash Hub app. If they wanted something particular, say a floral, or I could show them.
Right, so you didn't have to literally take it all with you.
No, I took lots of things that they weren't expecting, but if someone was doing something special.
So that was a way for them to kind of clothe themselves and their children, and make that £8 kind of stretch further.
Yeah, so their priority with sewing was for their children, because you can imagine how quickly children grow and how they rip things. So there was a lot of repairs.
I was going to say, was there lots of mending going on as well as brand new?
Yes,
from scratch?
quite a lot of mending. And they would get things from charity shops, or there was a lot of clothing donated, and they would change it to fit themselves, or make things for their children. And the other thing they liked to make was pillowcases. They absolutely loved making pillowcases, because it just brightened up their room.
Sure, kind of personalised it.
Yeah, and oven gloves. Yes, but it was very stressful but fun.
Amazing. What happened just before Christmas?
Well, we didn't have any warning. The refugees themselves had probably just over a week's warning, we found out. And we'd put together some little kits for them for Christmas with their own scissors, needles, just some nice buttons and a little kit for everybody that we'd collated from donations. And we turned up and everyone had gone and there was just rubbish everywhere. And so, yeah.
Literally the whole centre empty.
Closed, yes. And it was to do with the government and their processing figures that they needed to process so many refugees by a certain time zone. And as we found out, that just meant processing them, moving them somewhere else.
Oh, God, that's heartbreaking. So the community that they had managed to build was then taken apart.
Yes, yes. And, you know, the children were at school. One lady had just been diagnosed with a brain tumour and was having treatment at the local hospital. And children who had passed a certain age, they were no longer deemed a child, so they had to go somewhere else. And we were quite upset because of the shock of it. And we went for a coffee and I just said to them, we're upset, but just think how they are.
Sure. That is so heartbreaking after everything they've already been through.
Yes, but last week I did bump in to one of them in Lidl of all places.
That was going to be one of my questions. Like, do you know what happened to any of them? Do you get to be in touch with any of them still?
No, well...
But you bumped into one in Lidl.
We did think about trying to get in touch, but then there's all this safeguarding and keeping your distance. We would never get involved in any of their stories. We were there just to help them in this small way. So we didn't. But then I bumped into this lady in Lidl and she was so excited to see me and told me about her children. And her struggles to find work. I did actually suggest she come and volunteer at the Lighthouse and that might give her something on her CV.
Oh, amazing. So were they then processed to another refugee kind of camp kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or were they put into like kind of residential homes?
Some of them were lucky. Those with special needs, young children, the lady who was ill, they were put into houses and others were just sent to different centres. Quite a lot of them went up to Leicester for some reason. I don't know why.
That's so heartbreaking, especially if those kids they've made friends at school and they're
but I mean, the good thing is we brightened up their time for over a year. Yeah, and we all learnt things. And then when we all went home to our homes on a Tuesday, we would just be so grateful for what we have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can see me smiling because I did enjoy it.
Yeah, well, it must have been an incredible experience. I mean, it sounds like really hard work, but I can't imagine a more valuable way to spend your time, to be honest. It sounds incredible, like knowing that you are helping people so directly. So that's heartbreaking. That closed down with like no warning. So what happened next? So you're now volunteering at a place called the Lighthouse.
Yeah, well, my husband Steve and I have been volunteering there for 2 years now. We run the community lunch on a Wednesday.
So who attends the Lighthouse? Who are you providing lunches for?
Well, the Lighthouse is quite a well-known centre in Guildford. It's not in Guildford at all, Zoe. It's in Woking. And they've got various projects there which support and encourage people. And it's for anyone who's having a hard time in life, actually. Low income. We've got a food bank there. We have financial advice. We've got a baby bank where people can come in and go home with everything from nappies to buggies. And we also have a style studio there.
What's in the style studio?
Oh, it's very exciting. We have a dedicated team and it is like going into a boutique because everything is displayed beautifully. And that's the service, a bit like a personal shopping experience. And anyone can go in and choose an outfit if they're going for an interview or just need cheering up or need some shoes or something like that. So we've got one for men and one for women, and then they have the jewellery and the handbags. Yeah, sometimes I go in there and think, oh, I'd like to shop. Yeah. But it's a really nice thing to do. It's not just pampering, it's about necessity.
It's all run by volunteers?
It is run by volunteers.
Right. How is it funded?
Well, the Lighthouse itself is funded by charities. businesses, local groups, some churches and individuals. I mean, big companies, Clark's, when they were closing a branch, sent all their shoes in. This week we were there when Tesco's delivered crates and crates of food. So people are very generous. Lots of people do fundraising for it. So we have a budget of £100 a week, and we serve the community lunch. There's a lot of homeless people that come in there, people who are escaping addictions, drugs, alcohol, gambling, people who've just found themselves down on their luck. Sometimes it breaks my heart, especially when I see young people who are homeless. Yeah. They always get extra portions.
So you do that every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday. So we started doing that 2 years ago. And when we first started, we served about 40 meals. And this past week we served 70.
So more people are accessing it, yeah.
And we do quite a few takeaways as well. And for a lot of people, it's their only hot meal. We try and vary it. Well, we do vary it every week because we like it to be nutritious and something a bit exciting, something a bit different and affordable so that they can recreate it, and affordable for us for the budget. Each week as well, the food bank, they'll give us things that they can't give out to clients, all sorts of different things. The most unusual thing we were given actually was pickled eggs from Marks and Spencer's, but we said, I don't think we can use those. So
yeah, what are you going to put those in?
Yeah, so that's what we do, and it's great actually. Yeah, it's fun, hard work.
And out of that, or also based at the Lighthouse, you started working with sewing again.
Yes, so I got carried away by the community lunch there.
No, I loved it.
So the Guildford Refugee Centre closed just before Christmas, and then in January started up a small group at the Barnsbury branch of the Lighthouse.
Well, you didn't wait around, did you? Like, right, okay, again, let's do it.
Lots of fabric, all these machines.
I suppose, yeah, you had the stuff.
Yeah, so the Barnsbury thing is a community hub on a housing estate in Woking. So they've got different groups there. They've got a youth group, they've got a senior citizen thing. They do all sorts of different groups, and so they asked me to set up a sewing class. And it's quite different.
Yeah, in what way?
Well, they all speak English. They're all new sewers, so no experience at all. And a few of them are escaping sort of domestic abuse and not very nice circumstances, although, again, I don't go into that. And so they've all been sort of quite low confidence, low self-esteem. But over the weeks, we've just seen them start to chat more and blossom. So it's quite different, the fact that I'm teaching as well.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing rather than just facilitating and setting things up.
Yeah, so I'm showing them how to do different things. And one lady said to me, "Do you teach anywhere else?" And I thought, oh my goodness, she thinks I'm a teacher.
Well, you're teaching.
I just know more than they do.
That's all you need.
Yeah, so that's been quite hectic. And again, I put a shout out on Facebook, and then lovely lady Eleanor has come to join me, and she's brilliant.
Amazing. So how do you structure the teaching? Are you working through a project altogether, or are you helping people work on, I don't know, how are you structuring that?
Well, I thought that I would go in and I'd have a 6-week thing. I'd teach them this and I'd teach them that, and then we'd move on and make our bunting, our bag, our pyjama shorts. But of course, no, they all want to do different things, and they're all excited about what they can make. So we just do what they would like. We have made pyjamas, we have made bunting, we have made bags, but now they're doing their own thing, making shift dresses. And we do a lot of alterations and repairs, which I love.
Brilliant.
And there's one lady who comes along, and every week she brings various projects, but they're quite simple things like replacing elastic, whereas you and I might not think about doing that. If it was a cheap item, we might, and it would go to landfill, wouldn't it, eventually? But we put new elastic in, show them how to do it, and a lot of repairs.
So that's been going on since January? It's
been going on since January, and we have 5 or 6 women there each week, and we can take up to 10, so I'm looking forward to that. But it was necessary to start small just to build up confidence in the group.
Yeah. So how was that advertised? Like, how do people find out about the classes?
Through their links with other areas of the lighthouse. So through the other outreach projects. One lady through the community lunch. Yeah, so I see her at the sewing, and then the next day she always asks me what's on the menu.
She wants some inside scoop of what's coming up.
Yeah, so it's for people who just need a bit of lifting, a bit of me time, and it's so encouraging when I hear the impact that the group's having.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that if you could share. Obviously, without kind of naming names or whatever.
Well,
but what have you seen?
Well, just as I said earlier, that confidence and chatting and coming out of their shells, giving them new skills so they can pick things up at a charity shop. And I wonder what Mel would do with that.
Yeah, have they started to do that then now again, bring something in that they've found?
Yes, or being given from the Style Studio that's not quite the right length. They just love it. One lady just loves stripes. Anything striped she'll bring in. So it's just helped them to be creative, maybe finding out for the first time that they are creative.
Sure.
And just giving them a different focus for a few hours, making things for themselves. One lady, she made some pyjama shorts, and she went home and showed her daughter, and her daughter said, "Mummy, you're so clever. Isn't that nice?"
Yeah.
One lady said it's the first time that she's not thought about her children for that afternoon, because when you're sewing, you just need to keep focused, don't you? Another lady made bunting. She was making bunting to brighten up her living room for her daughter's birthday. And so the other women made bunting, and at the end of the class, they all gave it to her to make hers extra long.
Oh!
I know.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
So what's coming up? What are your hopes for this project?
As I said, I'd like to see it expand. As the women get more skills, just be able to teach them things. I really like the repair and alteration side of things, because I just think, well, they can't wear it now, so whatever we do isn't going to be any worse. So that's good.
That's a good mantra. Yeah. It's not going to get any worse.
Equipping them, empowering them, knowing that they can do something, that they've achieved something. I don't know, because I started off without any skills at all, and look where I am now. Can I just tell you about the Style Studio as well? Because,
please. Yeah, so let's hear more about the Style Studio. I also saw as well, there was an amazing, because you very kindly forwarded me like a newsletter from the Lighthouse. I couldn't believe the amount of different projects and aspects that there is, including what sounded really lovely was there was like a prom section where they were loaning out prom dresses and accessories and suits as well. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was a really successful event. I think it's been running for a few years now. So girls can come along with their families, and it's the whole experience going into a store. All the dresses were lined up in different sizes. And so the girls came in, a few dads as well, they were just given a cup of coffee and a chair. So the girls could come in and choose a dress. And then Eleanor and I were there to advise on whether it could be altered. We did a few hand alterations on the job, so to speak, and then other alterations we could say yes, it could be done or not. And then we just saw the girls getting the dresses of their dreams, and the shoes and the handbag, some makeup, even those little false nails that you can put on. Yeah, and some of the mums even went home with things. And one girl came in with their best friend, and I said, "Oh, do you want some makeup?" So it's fun.
Where did everything come from? Where did the shoes and the dresses and everything come from?
Well, some of it was in the Style Studio already, but we put a shout out on social media, and a lot of prom dresses are only worn once, and they sit in the back of people's wardrobes, and it's a great opportunity for local people to help. So they're mainly donated.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then the girls get to keep the outfits, but if they would like to bring them back, then they exchange it for a summer outfit.
Oh, lovely.
But they're welcome to keep it. We really enjoyed it, and Eleanor and I are hoping to shadow a local alterations company soon, so that then we can do more complicated alterations on site, open seams.
So you're going to kind of do some professional development kind of thing.
Yeah, I hope so, because then we can link more with the Style Studio, and then we can teach more repairs and alterations at our local group in Barnsbury, which we've called Sewing Stillness.
Oh, that's lovely. What inspired that?
I think it was from the First Lady, who said that it was the first time that she'd been still and not thought about her children.
That's so lovely. I mean, obviously, most people that listen to this podcast are people who sew themselves, so we understand that kind of almost that therapeutic aspect to just, just switching off from whatever's been going on.
Yes, yeah.
And it's so nice that you're able to give that to people that can really, really do with it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not just me though; it's a whole team of people.
Yeah, amazing. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the Style Studio?
No, just that it's something that we all take for granted, isn't it? Being able to go into a fabric store, being able to go into a clothing store, being able to pick what we'd like or save up for something.
Yeah, having choice, yeah.
And as mothers, we want to clothe our children. We want to give them little treats and things, don't we? And some people just can't afford to. Now, we haven't talked about how I got into sewing, Zoe.
Yes, this is where we're going next. So you were just talking about how you were about to learn some more alteration skills yourself. But so what is your own relationship with sewing? Like, it sounds like it's developed a lot in more recent years. So when did you start sewing and how has its role changed for you over the years?
Well, I've been sewing for about four years now, and I started off with patchwork.
That was the gateway.
It was the gateway. And for 2 years, I suppose that was the only sewing I did. I just needed another dimension to my life, and my friend Rachel said, how about sewing? So she helped me choose a machine, a very basic machine, and then I went off to Hobbycraft, picked up a kit and made my first quilt. And I look at it now, we use it for a picnic rug and the squares don't match up, but yeah, we still use it. I love it. So I started off with that, and that's all I was doing really until COVID came along, the pandemic, and my friend Rachel asked me if I could help her make some scrubs, because we were all asked to make scrubs for the NHS, weren't we? And I'd never made a garment at all, so I said, well, I could help you by making the scrub bags. And she offered to teach me how to make the trousers on Zoom. So I had these 2 bits of fabric that I cut out, and I just could not work out how, you put one inside the other leg, don't you? And so she taught me. I set up a scrub hub, and I had a group of 10 of us working together. So we would get the fabric in on rolls, and I would either cut them out here or give the fabric out and they would cut them. But mainly we cut it out here. And they would sew the scrubs and bring them back. And my husband's business was a catering company, but we had to put everyone on furlough. So he joined in. He would go and collect the rolls, and we would be cutting out scrubs, probably between 8 and 10 layers of fabric at a time.
Wow, you were really manufacturing.
We were, and we made quite a few. The whole family got involved. My son Peter, who was he 18 or 19 at the time? He started sewing scrubs with me, and he could whip up a pair of trousers in about 15 minutes, and I did the tops.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And one day John came in and said, Peter, let's go and kick a ball around. And Peter said, well, I just want to finish this few pairs of trousers first. And John just looked at us and he said, Peter, this COVID has changed you.
For the better?
Yeah.
You can now sew.
Yeah. So he went on to make a few things actually as well. But it was a real family thing. Yeah, so after I'd made the scrubs and all that demand tailed off, well, I thought if I can make scrubs, I can make pyjamas. So as I'm sure lots of people started with Tilly and the Buttons patterns, and I made some pyjamas from one of her books. So that was my first garment, and then I just got a bit more confidence. And my twin sister was having a big operation, so I dived straight in with the Carolyn pyjamas and made her some of those, which she loved. Yeah. So that was it really. Then I just started making my own clothes, trying different things. I mean, I had some disasters, but I had some successes as well. Can't believe that I'm 60 now.
Are you?
Yes, I was 60 in January, and my sewing has really changed my style. It's really helped me. I mean, apart from the friendship and sense of achievement and fun, it's changed my style. I just wear what I like. I might choose a really bold fabric and wear it because I've made it. But it's given me confidence.
Yeah. And now you're sharing that amazing boost with the people that you work with, that you're sharing your skills with.
Yeah, I like to think so. One of the things that stayed with me from the refugee centre was teaching a little girl to sew. I said that I couldn't take children in the summer camp under 12 because I was just thinking needles, scissors. But she was 10. And I said...
She snuck in.
And she hadn't been shown how to sew, whereas most of the people from those sorts of countries, they sort of learned that from their grandmothers, mothers, but she didn't have a clue. And I taught her to do running stitch, and we made this tiny little square of running stitch all the way around. And yeah, she's in my heart. She's on my heart, a little girl. I was the person who taught her how to sew.
Oh, well, I'm sure she'll remember you as well then. For a lot of us, like, sewing's quite a kind of solo activity, but it seems that for you, almost like community and connection has kind of been part of it kind of from quite early on. Sewing with and for other people and sharing your skills is a significant part of your sewing. It's not just something that you do kind of at the end of the day to wind down a bit.
No, and I think that sewing has changed me because I am quite a shy person naturally, although I don't think I'm shy now.
Despite all this volunteering that you've been doing.
Well, I think one of the things about volunteering is that you're a face behind something. When we do the community lunch, we're providing a service. I've got a role. I know what I'm doing. So that gives me confidence.
Yeah, because you just got to focus on that one thing.
Yes, and then at the shows or in a group, I run a refugee sewing project and people are interested, and that gives me something to talk about rather than just talk about myself. So it's helped me from that respect.
So how can people support what you're doing now with your sewing Stillness?
Well, we still need fabrics. It's good quality cottons and poplins because the people are new. So how can people support me? Well, another group that we started up with Yvette from Stash Hub, we decided that we would make our own group in Surrey called Surrey Sews. So we started that about a year ago, and we've got 45 people in our group. So we've had a fabric swap, which was brilliant because we had a table in the middle where everyone could chat and then all the fabric around the edge. So we have had quite a few events actually, and we're planning another fabric swap later on this year. We haven't got a date yet.
So the fabric that's left over from that, is that fabric then that goes to the Sewing Stillness classes?
Yes. And the other thing we're doing is we're running a fundraising event in October.
Tell me all about that.
Well, I've seen these frocktail events happening all over the world, in Australia, America, Canada, and Yvette and I have been talking about it for a while, and then I just thought, well, why don't we have an afternoon tea?
Nice. Sounds like lower stakes.
Yeah, well, we wanted something that would be affordable, that wouldn't put pressure on someone to make a fantastic outfit just to wear to show
that you might only wear once.
Yeah. And we wanted it to be local, but we wanted it to be inclusive. So it's like frocktails, but afternoon tea. So the focus is on community and then fun. We're going to have a catwalk. We've got a sewing challenge, which is going to be called Sophisticated 24, and that is to sew an afternoon tea themed item. So it could be a bag, it could be a dress, it could be a skirt, and it could be whatever you feel comfortable in going to an afternoon tea.
So that can be something that even if you're not in the local area and able to attend the tea, you can participate in that?
You can participate in the challenge, and it's going to be a random prize generator, and we've got some great companies on board.
Awesome. So when is the closing date for that?
Well, we're going to launch it on the 1st of September, and the closing date is the same date as the tea, which is the 19th of October.
Right. So this episode will be going out early September. So how can people, if they are able to attend the actual event in Surrey, where can they get tickets?
Right. Well, we're selling 100 tickets, and at the moment we've got 30 left. Yeah. So if they follow Surrey Sews, you'll find out all the information, or follow me on Instagram. Yeah. 1st of September to the 19th of October. I'm also hosting 2 sew-along sessions online with the virtual sewing room.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Do you know about the virtual sewing room?
I've heard of it. Tell me more.
Yeah, so that's an online community which was set up to provide community with people who just didn't know anyone in the sewing world or just wanted to sew and chat at the same time. It's a 2-hour session. So the sew-alongs that I'm doing, there's 2 dates in September, which again will be on Instagram. So it's just to help people get motivated to join in with our challenge.
Lovely.
And if they haven't got plans, you can also get in touch with me and I can talk through plans and fabric with you so that for the sessions you've got something to work on. But again, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Lots of aspects. Brilliant. Well, I'll put details of all of that in the show notes so people can access it.
Brilliant.
And people can find you on Instagram. What's your handle?
Well, it's very boring actually because I never thought that I would have any followers. Melanie Keane.
There we go. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. I am really excited for everything you've got going on, and I hope that lots of money gets raised for Sewing Stillness and it gets to expand in the way that you hope. So thank you so much for your time, Melanie.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!